listening to the DeCesare Group Podcast. Welcome back. I'm your host, Jim DeCesare, and I'm glad you're here. Leadership is something we talk about a lot on this podcast, and the Kentucky Center for Leadership, located at WKU's Innovation Campus, is an amazing resource for individuals and businesses. My guest today is the center's new executive director, John Gregory. John is a graduate of WKU with a degree in human resource management. He has more than 20 years of experience in the manufacturing industry, dedicated to developing individuals, strengthening teams, and building cultures where employees can thrive. His expertise spans human resources, training, leadership development, environmental health and safety, and corporate social responsibility. Throughout his career, John is focused on cultivating leadership at every level, coaching emerging leaders, strengthening management capability, and fostering environments built on trust, accountability, and continuous growth. Here's my conversation with John Gregory. John, welcome to the DeCesare Group Podcast.
All right, it's great to be here, Jim. Appreciate it.
Well, glad to have you on. This is actually our third episode on the Kentucky Center for Leadership, but you're the new executive director.
Yep, that's great.
And wanted to talk about that a little bit, about your role. And you sound like a perfect fit for KC4L. And before we talk about the organization, let's talk about your background, how you got into leadership training, and how you built your reputation in this area.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I guess it has to go back. You know, I've been in manufacturing for about 20 years. That's where I've spent my time. But graduate from WKU, human resources degree, and you know, I've always a passion for people. I mean, that's why I got into the field I did. But you know, I've been involved in leading departments and groups, and always loved, you know, being able to do that, being able to influence. But a few years ago, I was in switched roles where I was at, and actually that role created opportunity where I had a little more time on my hands. Like, it was a slow moving role, but at that time I thought, well, maybe there's some things I could get out and do on the side a little bit, because by that time I'd worked for a company for, probably 10, 11 years. Had built up some time, and it just happened to come up where, because my job wasn't super busy yet, I for a while I'd wanted to become or get involved with the John Maxwell stuff. Yeah. I always kind of followed him, and so I talked to my leadership there. Said, "Hey, I've got an opportunity to go through the John Maxwell program, go through the whole certification process for that." And there was actually the Maxwell Group was running a deal anyway, and so when I talked to my leadership, I mean, like same day, they're like, "Yeah, go do it." Yeah. And so I did, and about that time, I'd called. I'd called somebody over there about scheduling a conference room or a training room for something we were doing out at Kobe Aluminum where I was at. And I just happened to ask them on a whim. I said, "Hey, are you all ever looking for any extra trainers?" I was like, I'm looking to maybe get into it, get my feet wet a little bit with it. And they said, actually, yeah. And of course I knew some folks over there. Yeah. And they
Derek Olive and the team.
Derek, yeah. And Amy Talicki was the one. Yep. She was the one over there at the time. And so they said, yeah, come try out, pick a topic, come try out. And so I did, and started doing training on the side with them. Mm-hmm. And of course, I had known them. They had been out at our workplace years ago. And I don't know, maybe a little bit of the passion started there. Yeah. Because when they were doing the training, I loved participating in it. I loved learning through it. I was a younger leader, you know, leading a safety department at that time. But I was just absorbing it, and started reading and you know, doing those things they say that you should do if you want to grow. It started reading, and just, I don't know, kind of felt like, man, I really love this stuff. Yeah. And maybe I'd like to do that someday when I'm not churning, raising a family and trying to you know, do well at my job. You know, maybe eventually that could be something someday. Well, when I switched roles, opportunity came up. I had a little more time. So got Maxwell certified, and then started doing stuff with Western. Yeah. And got to work with different companies and stuff that way. But I had to be careful, because I was like, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go double dip, right? I'll take vacation days, and I'll go teach classes for Western and stuff. Well, then about a year after that, I actually was meeting with Alex Downing one day, and told him just some of my interests and kind of if they're ever looking for that. And of course, obviously they had people they were using. But we were eating lunch one day at Cheney's Dairy Barn, and he said, "Hey, do you have a business? Do you have any business cards?" At that time, I mean, I was just starting some kind of moonlight stuff on the side. Yeah.
Side hustle.
It was totally a side hustle. And so basically it was kind of like every year I was doing a little bit more. First year I was doing some stuff with Western. Second year was I have a small training company called Edifier Training Solutions. So I was doing stuff with a company down in Franklin, Trauber Mechanical.
Trauber Mechanical,
yeah.
So We've had Joey on the podcast.
Yeah. I see those guys every month. We're in our third year of doing leadership training with their group. And so I started doing a little bit of that. And then, so that was year 2. And then year 3, Sky CTC reached out about me doing some safety training for them. Mm-hmm. So it kind of started building from there. And then by the time that the end of 2025 rolled around, that's when I met Greg Coker. And we got connected. And he said, hey, can you help us out on some things? What we were talking about. He knew I was from industry.
Yeah. And you're from Franklin, too.
And I'm from Franklin. So that connection, I didn't know he was from there.
Yeah.
And so that connection happened. And through that, it's so funny. I've met so many Franklin folks that are somewhat connected there. But that's where I grew up. And so all that led to eventually where I was at Kobe Aluminum. I mean, my role was, I was starting to get where I was like, thinking, what's next? I was doing more and more training on the side, but I was like, I don't know if I can keep this up, doing a full-time job, plus doing all these things on the side that I really love doing too, plus raising a family and doing all the things. Yeah. And eventually things just really lined up. And, which I look back and I tell people, I was like, it was totally a God thing, because Kobe was looking for a leadership development program. I was starting to talk with Kentucky Center for Leadership. Eventually they said, we need somebody that can help, like, kind of manage the day-to-day stuff for the Center for Leadership. Would you be interested? And so it all kind of fell in place, and the timing worked out really good. So now here I am, still doing work for Kobe Aluminum, but now I'm I guess my full-time role is with Center for Leadership. So
I got you. Well, let's talk about the Maxwell training. I mean, you're certified Maxwell instructor or leadership development coach. Tell us about that process.
So it was neat. Of course, John Maxwell, I mean, a lot
legendary.
He is, yeah. And I mean, just timeless principles in what he has. And so I really gravitated more towards his material and his content. Mm-hmm. And when I was thinking, well, how can I maybe start getting credentialed in some things, that's where I went to, because I was like, I just that's the type of stuff I like to follow, and I felt like his material was good. And then, I mean, there's a portal that's got all of his content to teach, and it's so good. There's so much of it. I mean, it is overwhelming how much stuff there is. But I went to Orlando, went to the big 2-3 day event they have, right. And which is really cool. I mean, most dynamic speaker I've ever seen, hands down, and got to see him speak, and all the Maxwell model between training and speaking and coaching. I was like, this is cool. I would love to do more of this someday. But I was like, at least I'll get started here. Yeah. And then became Maxwell Leadership Certified, and then started just kind of building after that.
How long did that process take you to get certified?
It was, so first was really just to get registered. And, actually the first thing I did was they had Maxwell DISC, mm-hmm. the DISC behavioral assessment. So I did that first. And I don't know.
And where are you on the DISC?
So I am actually, my I and my S are both really high. I'm kind of that people type of person, but also
I'm with you there too.
Yeah. I'm there, plus very team based. Yeah. And so that's, I think the fit was good. It made sense for the type of stuff that I like doing and working with people, but also, working, to try to, I don't want to say be out in front of people, but, I like being able to serve people in that way. Yeah. I guess. So, but yeah, it was a cool process. It wasn't really hard. It's just making the investment. Yeah. And the company I was working for, they're willing to do it. And then from there, it's like, all right, well, I've gotten started, and they had resources on how to be a better speaker, how to be a better coach, definitely their content library of stuff. And so it was cool, getting to do that.
So you got through that process. So, switching gears, you talked about working in industry, mm-hmm. Most recently at Kobe Aluminum, over 20 years of manufacturing.
Yep.
What's one leadership lesson you've learned the hard way?
So I was thinking about this last night. So there's a few examples, but one, I had a couple that I was like, maybe I'll use these. But then one hit me today, and it doesn't seem like a major thing, but we had a department, safety department. We reported to our plant manager. This is several years ago, and really what it is as I think, don't be silent on the important issues.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to keep diplomacy with everybody and get along with everybody and make sure we're all working together. But there was me and there was a coworker that I had. We were colleagues. We did a little bit different things, but worked together. Well, we were in a meeting with our plant manager at the time, and he's kind of raking my coworker, over the coals about something. And I don't even remember what it was. It doesn't even matter at this point, but I don't remember what it was. But it's enough that I had some knowledge where I could have spoken up.
Yeah,
and
it was uncomfortable.
It was uncomfortable because he's our boss, right? Yeah. And I remember afterwards, and this coworker I had, we were friends. I mean, he is like my oldest friend in the world. Like, we went to preschool together, and so we had the opportunity to work together. But I remember afterwards we talked, and on the phone call, he's like, "John, man, why didn't you say anything during that?" And it was really one of those like convicting moments where I was like, "Man, you're right." I couldn't argue against it.
Yeah.
And so I told myself that, for one, I need to make it right with him. And I mean, it was no problem. I told him, I was like, "Man, it won't happen again. Trust me." And I think I learned what I needed to learn right then. And again, it wasn't a huge deal, but it was enough to where I don't want to be that where I don't speak up. And so I think that's one lesson I had to learn is when it's time to be silent, it's time to be silent. When it's time to speak up, it's time to speak up. And don't not speak up just because you're afraid your boss, may.
Yeah. Is he still the boss out there?
No, he left several years ago. Yeah. I had a good relationship with him too, but really
he had a bad moment.
Yeah. But really when it came down to it is, do I want to like put a little weirdness in the friendship here and in the working relationship just because I messed up in the moment? Yeah. And so I think that was one that's really stuck with me, and I've used it in training classes and stuff when I'm saying, there's times you got to speak up and say the right things, and especially if it's a moment that you might change the outcome. Yeah,
and you probably know this, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but good leaders, they appreciate that feedback. They like to know when they've messed up as well.
Yeah. Well, and I was just teaching a class yesterday on generations in the workplace, and there was one thing we talked about.
7 of them, right? 7 or 8.
Yeah. Like right now we were talking about the 4 main ones, but then you got 6 or 7 different ones total, depending on what setting.
But we have a whole episode on that.
Oh, do you? Yeah. And well, we were talking about that. Is there's a time to speak up, and there's a time to be more vocal and more visible, and there's times to maybe need to step back and not say as much right now.
Yeah, there's some hills you don't want to die on.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So it was a lesson for me.
There are times. Well, that's a great lesson for anyone out there that there's never a wrong time to do the right thing.
So, right. Yeah.
So the Kentucky Center for Leadership, what makes it different from all the other leadership training options out there? Because there are others, but KC4L, that's the term that most people like to use for the organization. Yeah. It's really it's all encompassing. So tell us more about that.
Yeah. So when I first joined, I started learning that we're really, I don't want to say we're targeting just a really specific area, but our kind of main focus is next level leadership. Mm-hmm. People that are kind of already leaders in their own right in whatever they're doing, whatever industry they're in. But for us, it was, well, how do we offer things that maybe other organizations don't do or can't do? I think one of it is customization. That because one company we're working with right now, I mean, we've got. They were looking for a leadership development program, and we said, well, what are you looking for? And I mean, we do 3 days of training with them a month. I do it with them, and then the next week I follow up with 3 days of coaching for their leadership. Not every company's looking for that. But some companies are looking for a cohort program, or they're looking for, hey, let's get supervisory skills. We can do that, and we will, if an organization needs that, or maybe if they can't find it somewhere else. But I think we're a little bit beyond that too, that we want to create this, Greg says, and that's what we're trying to do, is create experience where you remember it, where you leave and you're like, wow, I listened to an awesome speaker at a leadership luncheon, or I went to this workshop and I haven't had the opportunity to go to something like that before. Or hey, we've never had somebody that can do coaching with us. So I think the customization, plus with our board, we've got a lot of resources.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's Greg, and then, we've got Dr. Ransdale on the board, and, Jim Flynn, who's worked with school systems, and we've got, Terry Daniels and several others that we all have the same passion and similar passion, but we're able to do it in different arenas. And so I think that helps. We depending on what's needed, we can bring in resources that fits that need.
Yeah. That's awesome. So is the center, for a struggling leader, a high performer, or an organization in chaos, or all the above?
I think we can be. We've got some things we can do on, crisis leadership. What do you do when you got a crisis?
Crisis management.
Crisis management, yeah.
And I'm going to interrupt you here, because a lot of companies don't have that crisis management plan in place.
Yeah.
When something goes wrong and the news is calling you, what do you do?
Yeah. So we can do things like that, but like one class that Greg's doing here in a couple weeks is the art of conversation. Public speaking.
Yeah.
Quest for good conversation, but doing coaching and some things, I realize a lot of people struggle with that one.
Yeah.
Just being able, and not that they're having to get out and do speeches, but talking to their team and being the most influential voice in the room. They can do it, but they want to be able to do it better. So I think for us, it's people that are maybe somewhat mature, defined leaders, but looking to kind of take it up a notch.
Yeah.
I think that's where we come in.
Okay.
The best.
So have you noticed when you're dealing with, millennials or Gen Z that may be in leadership roles now, did they have a harder time being outspoken in front of people? Because, my impression is a lot of them don't want to make eye contact.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but there's a, it's a different generation now than the way we grew up, because everybody just texts, or, they get on Snap and send a DM or something like that. So what's your experience been with stuff like that?
So, that's interesting, because just having our generations class yesterday, we were talking about that. And I think for millennials, it's a little bit easier because, I'm right at the beginning of the millennial generation. Yeah. And when I was at Western, last couple of years of classes, like every class we had a project to do with a team. And so you learn about that collaboration, which is a identifier for millennials, is you start working in a team, that team aspect. We see that coming in a lot more. I think Generation Z is a little bit different. Gen Z is, you've got younger ones that know how to, they know how to use the tools, know how to use Canva, and they can create these awesome presentations, these awesome graphics, and these awesome marketing things.
Yeah.
But it's still that struggle of being in front of people.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of them just knew how to use all the tools, but just didn't know how to do that person-to-person side of things. And so I think it's a challenge for sure. But, Gen Z, there's such great potential with them. They're so smart, so quick moving, but a lot of them just don't have that person one-on-one skill set.
Yeah. I was at an event recently where it was a huge event. No cell phones were allowed. Everybody had to bag them.
Yeah.
And of course, there weren't many young people there. It was all older people. But it was interesting to see the crowd, because it was like nobody missed their phone.
Yeah.
Everybody was paying attention and doing what needed to be done. But I was thinking, man, what if we had a bunch of younger people here? They would, I think they would be a little fidgety and, not knowing what to do. Because usually when you go to events, someone's always got their phone out.
Yeah.
I think Simon Sinek has a great little 2-minute video about the cell phone. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where he says you walk into a room and he's holding his cell phone the whole time. He goes, who's the most important person in this room right now to me? And he's holding his phone up and he's going, yeah, if I got my phone in my hand, you're not the most important person to me, you know?
Yeah, right.
So it's just interesting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, of course, I use my phone for things, and
we all do.
Yeah,
I mean, we're all guilty of it, but there's a time to set it aside.
Sure. Yeah. Well, my son, we were talking about this a while back, and I appreciate his insight into it because he's 19. I mean, he's a student at Western.
How many kids you got?
5. Yeah,
Basketball team.
Yeah. And he is actually Generation Z, and my girls are all Alpha.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because we were talking about phones, and of course he knows how to use it so fast for things.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a techie. You know, that's what he's going to school for is IT. But he's even told me, he's like, you know, with the phones, he's like it's doing things to our brains that, you know, we don't need. And he's a 19-year-old understanding this. But yeah, it's the time we're living in, and I have to go with it too sometimes. So.
Yeah. So talking about your role at Kobe Aluminum, how has it played a part in your new role for your new title? I mean, you're still affiliated with them, you're still working with them, but you're not actually their employee anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So when I started talking with the Kentucky Center for Leadership and started, you know, volunteering, helping do some things, at that time, Kobe Aluminum was like, hey, they were going to be 2026 was just going to be a different year for them, right? There time where they could slow down a little bit, which throughout the years I'd been there, I mean, it was grow, you know, and go. I mean, all the time.
Yeah.
And they're like, we want to really focus on our leaders here and get them better. And we've got a group of people, about 100 people, that were like, we want to develop all of them. And at the time I was thinking about it, I was like, well, is there an opportunity here to do something, maybe bringing the Center for Leadership also with CAP, you know, Kobe, that's what we call it, CAP.
Yeah.
And at that time too, I was like, what about this? What if Center for Leadership could be your resource for it? And we could do, and not only do training, but we can introduce coaching, which they hadn't really done before. It's like we can do them both. And I was like, I know a group that can help us with that. And during that time, it was really an interesting but very cool transition that I said, hey, you know, I think I'm going to be leaving. And then, of course, I had the opportunity with KC4L, but I said, I told Cap, I said, my plan is to leave at the end of the year. But I was like, if you all want to partner up with Kentucky Center for Leadership, I think it'd be a great group for one. But not only that, if you're looking for somebody to do training and coaching, I mean, I was familiar with them. I think they felt comfortable with me. You know, felt like we had a good trusting relationship.
Yeah.
I said I would probably be the one to come back out and do the training with you all. And I think everybody saw it too. They're like, man, you're busy all the time doing training. You know, what do you got going on this week?
Yeah.
And I started feeling a little bad though, because I was like, man, this is growing bigger, but I've still got my regular job. But it actually worked out where CAP became Kentucky Center for Leadership's first manufacturing cooperative member.
Okay.
Which included, you know, full-scale leadership development program with you know, training workshop type stuff, plus coaching, plus they get all the other member benefits, a discounted rate, and get to come to the events and things like that. So it was really cool that I still get to go out there, and I saw all of them this week. You know, we do training, you know, 1 week a month, and I saw this week's when I saw all of them. And I would walk through the hallways at CAP, and some of them would say, "Man, we see him more now than he did when he worked here." But
he's back.
But it's cool, yeah. But it's cool because it's it's been a family, right? But now I get to go out there and do things for them that I used to not get to do as much of.
Yeah.
But you know, we're all tight like that.
Yeah,
and,
I have a similar client that is a former employer. That I see some of those guys more now than when I worked at that company.
Yeah,
you know, so I know the feeling.
Yeah, well, and it's cool because one thing I told them, if you all do coaching, I don't recommend having somebody internal do it. Get you somebody external.
Yeah.
Well, then it worked out. Once I became external, I could come back and do it. Not feel like I was doing coaching with their leadership team, and we're talking about some confidential stuff, but not feeling like, well, now we've talked about all this, but now I'm going to see you in a meeting here in a little bit about the same thing we just talked about. Yeah. So it's good to have that closeness, but also that separation. Yeah.
So, working in manufacturing, especially in leadership, Kobe's a Japanese company.
Yep.
And we have a lot of international operations in the region. Can you talk about the cultural differences between an American run operation versus a Japanese run operation? I mean, sometimes those are some of the, I don't want to say they're hurdles, but those are some of the things that they operate differently, internally, because, the Japanese culture is a lot different than the American culture.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I will first off say that my experience working with the Japanese was really good.
Yeah.
And
they're big on leadership development.
They are. And they really want to, really want the company to grow, the organization to grow. And, I'd say probably, if I were to say it the best, they're very loyal people.
Yeah.
For one, very loyal.
Absolutely.
Very much relationship based people. Is if there's a group that they feel connected to, then and it works. They like to keep that relationship. But also too, the Japanese are very patient people. Where Americans, sometimes we're moving fast. We got a problem, let's get a solution, let's get it done and get it done fast.
Instant gratification.
Yeah, a little bit more. And the Japanese, they are methodical, very, very data driven. I learned a lot from them on that because I never worked for a Japanese company until I came there. But I started realizing that they are good to work with. Now, there are challenges too. Sometimes with probably the American way, a lot of times we're trying to understand, well, okay, I've got to work on this particular thing. Why is this important, right? What do we hope to gain from it? Sometimes with the Japanese, it's a little bit different. That we're going to start this first, and then the understanding will come. Full understanding will come a little bit later.
Yeah.
And then there's some things that we can't negotiate. No, we got to take care of right now. So that I think they had a pretty good balance of what we need to act on fast, but what we needed to wait a little bit on. So those are some of the differences, but my experience was good. And especially during the time I was in environmental health and safety, I had a counterpart over in Japan. As we're trying to get our culture safer and we're trying to build better processes. I mean, he was good about coming over a couple times a year, and just anything I needed, he was super helpful. So it's good that when you have multiple plants around the world that are like yours, they're willing to share things, and we share back and forth and communicate. So overall, the experience was really good. I mean, we all have our set of cultural challenges, but most of them, weren't super difficult to work through.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how can businesses and individuals get involved with the Kentucky Center for Leadership?
Okay.
And I'm going to put the web link in the show notes. So
okay, good.
That'll be there.
That'd be good. Yeah, we're actually right now, we've been going through this process a little bit, is redoing our website, because if you go on there right now, I mean, you'll see some things, but it's not nearly everything that we do. So we're redoing that. That should launch, I'd say, probably here in about another month or two. We're really trying to get the way we want it, but we're also trying to make it more of a resource for people. It'll have information on there. It'll tell more about us. It'll tell more about how to get involved. Some things I think we're starting to send more out about Kentucky Center for Leadership, what we're doing.
Yeah.
Between workshops and leadership luncheons, and we'll have the summit coming up later in the year. But I think one way is when we send stuff out, even if people don't want to sign up for a workshop, if you have interest, just reach out to us. Most everything we put out, I'm putting on our website. My email address, Greg's is on some of it, so people know they can get in touch with us and find out more. But I found out that a lot of people know who we are, but they don't fully know what all we do. And some were like, I didn't know who you all were. And we're like, we're over at the Innovation Campus, and we help organizations develop their leaders better, and we're a resource that's here. And so I think if people just want to reach out, we'll be glad to say, hey, what are you looking for? Like, what are you dealing with right now? Maybe there's an opportunity we can help with that.
Awesome.
So I think just letting people know that we're here, and we're available, and we love to talk to your organization, see how we can help.
So you have the summit coming up later this year.
Mm-hmm.
Is that usually late summer, early fall?
Yeah, it'll be in late September.
Okay.
This time, yeah.
Yeah, and that's an all-day event. And
yeah.
A lot of speakers, lunch, and all that good stuff.
Sure. Yep.
And then you have your quarterly lunches,
right?
Which is always they're always great. And of course, just be checking your email or keep an eye out on their social media, website, whatever, and find out about those.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been trying to send out more promotional information. When we've got upcoming events.
Yeah.
Our next one's going to be a little bit unique. We've got a leadership breakfast. We're trying this. But as of right now, we're still in the planning stages of it. But we're supposed to be having Stephanie Coleman with the Nashville Chamber of Commerce coming and kind of partner up, kind of doing a discussion with hopefully the Bowling Green Chamber. And so, again, it's still in the works right now. We haven't officially sent anything out on it, but that's what we're looking at.
Awesome.
That'll be coming up in June, I think June 18th.
Okay.
So we're
mark your calendars.
Yeah, we're working on getting
the date.
Yeah, that's right, and we're hoping that it'll be a little bit bigger and just a little bit different than our previous leadership luncheon. It's going to be a breakfast, and
that's a big deal getting her here.
Yeah. We Greg made the connection and said, hey, I think she would be awesome to have, and then we started talking about, well, maybe we switch it up a little bit, do a leadership breakfast, and then how can we bridge the, create that bridge with our area.
Yeah.
And so we thought, well, this might be a unique opportunity to do that. So there'll be more coming out on that once it all gets finalized and put together, but we're hoping that it'll all, work out and we'll be able to do that one.
Fantastic. All right. So what's one takeaway you hope every listener walks away from this conversation with?
So I think, kind of like I mentioned earlier, we're here as a resource. We're trying to be more visible in the community and letting people know that we've got ways we can help, and we've got passion to help leaders. We got a passion to help them grow so they can lead a better Bowling Green and lead a better state and beyond that. And we'd love to talk with you, love to partner up with you. We've got cooperative members. We're working on right now different tiers of membership. But you don't have to be a member. But there's more value to becoming a member.
Sure. But
we just letting people know we're here and we're trying to bring in a lot of excitement to leadership development in our area beyond what's already here. We're trying to just be one more group to help foster that energy.
Yeah, and find out more, go to kc4l.org. I think that's right.
Right, that's right.
It's the letters KC, the number 4L.org.
That's right, yeah.
Right. Well, John, thanks for being on the DeCesare Group Podcast.
All right, it's been awesome. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks again to John Gregory, Executive Director for the Kentucky Center for Leadership, for joining us this week on the DeCesare Group Podcast. And thank you for checking us out. If you like what you hear, please share it with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a review and share your feedback with us as well. You can also follow the DeCesare Group across all of our social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. And you can even subscribe to our weekly newsletter, SOKI Economic Development and Business News, by going to our website, thedecesaregroup.com. The DeCesare Group Podcast is produced by the DeCesare Group, a public relations and consulting firm based in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Our engineer and chief organizational frequency officer is Justin DeCesare, and with content contributions from Brooke Mattingly. The DeCesare Group Podcast is researched by Amy DeCesare. I'm Jim DeCesare, inviting you to join us again next time for the DeCesare Group Podcast.